Morning, everyone. Here in the People's House, we continue to get things done for the American people. After enacting the first entitlement reform in nearly 2 decades, we're starting the appropriation process earlier than at any time since 1974. We're also making progress on cybersecurity, reauthorizing our foreign intelligence capabilities, and have a real opportunity to work together on trade. And today we'll pass the first joint 10-year balanced budget plan since 2001. Just yesterday we saw GDP figures that reflect what many middle-class families are going through, running in place and getting nowhere. Frankly, I think it's unacceptable. America needs real growth, and that means real pro-growth policies to fix the tax code, expand American energy production, and solve our spending problem. All of those things are in this balanced budget. As the majority leader has noted, in our first 100 days, both the full House and our committees essentially doubled their output from the last Congress. We've got a lot left to do, but we're listening to the American people and we're getting things done. On Iran, this week the Iranians fired on and seized a neutral vessel traveling in international waters. Top Iranian general stated that the United States was responsible for the 9/11 attacks. And Iran's top diplomat now says any economic sanctions will be lifted only days after a deal is signed. None of this should be taken lightly or silently, as the administration would apparently have us do. We're getting closer to making sure Congress can review any potential agreement with Iran, and Iran, by its words and its actions, is showing exactly why we need this type of accountability. Lastly, the people of Baltimore have certainly been in our prayers, especially the family of Freddie Gray and the police officers who have been injured. Like many Americans, I've been inspired by the stories of residents banding together to clean up the damage. Now, the president has suggested more taxpayer money is the answer. Again, we believe the answer is more jobs and more opportunity. Listen, our government spends hundreds of billions of dollars a year on well-intentioned programs designed to help people get out of poverty. We've been doing this for decades. But from what we've seen around the country, it's clear that this approach is not working. I think we first should be asking the question, what is working and what isn't? And if they're not working, how can we fix these programs? How can we make sure that we educate more of America's kids? How can we put in place more economic policies that expand opportunities for all Americans? And how can we put the focus on what will help the most people in need and will do the most good for our communities? One of my political icons, Jack Kemp, was asking these same questions nearly 3 decades ago. And today, my friend Paul Ryan and many others are continuing that work, focus on expanding opportunity instead of creating more dependency. And I think we owe it to every American to take a long, hard look at this problem and begin to think of new solutions.
Speaker Boehner, did you tell a private group that Congress does not have the votes to stop the Iran deal?
No, I did not.
So you feel that Congress is able to stop the Iran deal if need be?
You know, we'll see if there is an agreement. We'll see what comes of the Corker bills that comes out of the Senate, and then we'll take it from there. But it's too early to speculate on whether we can or can't.
Speaker, there's a vigorous debate going on now about what to do about the Patriot Act, which is about to expire. You know Senator Connell prefers a straight reauthorization. Lots of folks, including your party, would rather see some reforms. What's your personal position, and how do you think we should proceed? Well,
I believe that the work of the Intelligence Committee and the Judiciary Committee has produced a very good package that I believe is going to be marked up in the Judiciary Committee today. Of course, it's not everything that I'd want, but I think it's a solid agreement that basically reflects the bill that passed the House last year with nearly 300 votes. I know there have been several changes, but it's essentially the bill that we passed again with almost 300 votes last year.
Mr. Speaker, what do the detractors of this trade agreement, what do they not get? And comes to this? Where are they falling short in understanding this? And at what point, you know, if the president wants this and you need Democrats to pass the bill, do you are the one has to be the person that reaches out across the aisle and says, look, let's see if we can get some of these guys on board like you did on the doctors? Listen,
trade has been very good for America, and it's created, frankly, millions of jobs in our country. But I don't think those who are involved in trade have done a very good job of helping the American understand the benefits of trade and why, in fact, it's good for America. And that's why we have this struggle every few years, whether it comes to a trade bill or it comes to trade promotion authority. But one thing is clear. There'll be strong Republican support for trade promotion authority. Another point you should keep in mind is that every Democrat leader in the House and Senate are opposed to giving the president what he's asking for. And the president needs to step up his game in terms of garnering more support amongst Democrats, especially here in the House.
Mr. Speaker, 20 years ago you were part of a House leadership team in a Republican majority that didn't just pass a balanced budget through a budget resolution. You also rolled up your sleeves and passed implementing legislation. It was very difficult, as you remember. Why aren't you doing that this year?
Listen, I think we have a little different environment here than we did in 1997. And the fact is, the president is the one who suggested the sequester when he backed out of a long-term deal that he and I and Mr. Cantor had agreed to. You know, if the president is serious about this, we'd welcome his involvement in fixing our long-term spending problem.
But in 1995, it was a Republican-only exercise to prove to the American people that you would fulfill your promises. You're making a promise about a balanced budget, but you're not fulfilling it.
If we can get some cooperation on the other side of the aisle, we'd love to do it.
It's pretty clear that Hensarling does not want to extend the Export-Import Bank, and I understand he's going through the process in his committee. If the Senate passes something, could you put that out? Could that get a vote?
Listen, I'd support any plan that the chairman can get through his committee, whether it would reform the bank, wind it down. But there are thousands of jobs on the line that would disappear pretty quickly if the XM Bank were to disappear. So I've told the chairman he needs to come up with a plan. And because the risk is that if he does nothing, the Senate is likely to act, and then what?
Well, that's what I'm asking. That was my question.
Well, it's a question I posed to the chairman. You might want to ask him.
Okay.
Comment on the decision to delay votes on the appropriations bill last night, and why were appropriations bills taken up before the budget was passed?
Well, our goal obviously was to pass the budget before we started the appropriation process, but we had a little delay in terms of getting the conference report signed, and so we started our appropriation process. And then last night during this debate on the military construction VA spending bill, all of the members of the House Armed Services Committee who were concerned about some of these amendments were in a markup on the National Defense Authorization Bill until some 4:30 this morning. And so we just thought it was time to just stop. Let's go ahead and do the budget, and then we can resume the appropriation process. I think it was a smart move on our behalf.
Mr. Speaker, later today the House may vote on to disapprove a D.C. law that would have the effect of prohibiting discrimination by employers on reproductive health decisions. There's a deadline in 2 days. The Senate isn't going to act. The President isn't going to sign this. Why was it important to bring this to the floor, and do you support it?
We have a number of members who are concerned about this issue, and the issue is one of religious liberty. This is about conscience protections that the President says he supports, but really hasn't put regulations in place to protect the conscience clause. It's been, frankly, part of our laws and statutes for decades and decades. And so our members thought it was important, and that's why it was added to the schedule.
Sir, can you tell us when you anticipate the House needing to vote on the debt ceiling increase and what your plan is for that?
No, I cannot. I have no idea what that date really is, and all I can tell you is that I'm really looking forward to it.